My neighbor told me I couldn't put out my trash, so I put his on vacation hold, by user throwaway 1648293746. So I rent a house with my husband and 2 of our friends. It's a 5-bedroom house. Rent is outrageous in our area, $2,400 for a 1-bedroom apartment. So we found this house for $3,000, not a bad deal while we save up to buy a house. There are other houses in the neighborhood like this as well. Our next door neighbors, their house is a 5-bedroom house and they have 9 people living in their house, so it is chaos over there all the time. In our neighborhood we can choose the trash company, so it just so happens that we have the same trash company as the next door neighbors. Our trash company does like us to have the trash out by 7 a.m, we don't always get it out that earlier though, and that's where this problem started. Most of the time they don't pick up our trash until 11 a.m, so obviously, as long as the trash is out before trash pickup gets here, they can take our trash. The people next door have 3 trash cans, and they are overflowing every single week. They put their trash out the night before, but unfortunately our neighborhood has raccoons and foxes, so the trash is always getting into, and last time a raccoon got into their trash, it left a mess in our yard and they wouldn't pick it up. I was pretty pissed about it, but I just let it go, cleaned up their trash. I did go and put it back in their trash can and they just sat out front glaring at me while I did that. Here is where this incident started. A couple weeks ago, I didn't get our trash out until almost 9 a.m. All 4 of us was sick with COVID. I was on the mend and feeling a little bit better, but I slept in and forgot to put out the trash at 7 a.m. So I go to put the trash out and my neighbor starts yelling at me saying, "You were supposed to have your trash out by 7 a.m, you can't put your trash out now." I said, "Well, they haven't come and pick up the trash because your trash cans are full, so it's not a big deal." He said, "No, that's the rules, your trash has to be out by 7 a.m, if it's not you can't get your trash picked up this week." I said I understand that they want the trash out by 7 a.m, but they haven't come and picked it up yet, so it doesn't matter. So I went ahead and I just walked inside. I went back to bed and a couple hours later I get up to see that our trash can were put to the side of the house and they were still full of trash. So that means that someone moved our trash can. Our other neighbor came up to me the next day and said that she saw him put our trash can back. She didn't know the situation, so she wasn't going to butt in and tell him to not do that. Our neighbors are also very proud about their last name. They literally have a flag in their front window with their last name, so I called the trash company and I said that I was Mrs. So-and-so and I needed to set up a vacation hold for our upcoming pickup. They said, "No problem, we won't pick up your trash next week." They legit only asked for the address, no other information. The next week I made sure that our trash was out at 6:45 a.m. Then I sat and I watched for the trash truck and I watched them come past the house. They drove past my neighbor's house, didn't pick up their trash, even though their trash was overflowing, picked up ours and the other few people who also have them and left. I know I'm an asshole for doing this, you don't need to tell me, I may have crossed the line. But he also crossed the line by touching our cans and moving them and setting foot on our property. I took away all the towel seat reservations at the resort, by user Connection 12. I was on holidays in an all-inclusive resort. First day, we couldn't find any lounge chairs by the beach or by the sea. Fair enough, we arrived in the afternoon. Next day, we go to find a spot. But most of the spots were taken by towels. We find an empty seat and to our surprise, many of the chairs stay reserved almost the whole day or never get used. Third day, we decide to take some towels off 2 loungers, and enjoy our day. 4 hours in, an older couple shows up that they had towels there, and kick us off with help from an attendant. That pissed me off, so every following day I went to take the towels off of every unattended lounger after breakfast, and then went to watch the chaos from my balcony. Many people complained, and by the end of the week there was a sign that unattended towels would be removed. Success. Confronted in a parking lot because I legally used a handicapped spot, he wound up with DUI, pretty certain by user AZNM1912. I'm a healthy-looking 55-year-old male but have a degenerative nerve disorder and ataxia, balance issues, so have a very hard time walking. I pull into a handicap spot at the grocery store, put my placard up, and get myself out of the car. A very angry person about my age runs up to me screaming about how I'm stealing a handicapped spot from someone who needs it. As he went on, I pulled out my walker and started walking to the store as he continued making a scene. As I walked to the store, a cop who just happened to be there asked what happened. I just told him some people don't get it and pointed to my walker and went about my business. About 30 minutes later I came out of the store and noticed the guy was getting a field sobriety test. I sat in my car and watched as he eventually got arrested. Maybe next time he'll keep his mouth shut. So you ghost me on payday? I'm gonna ghost you on presentation day, by user creepyfig7894. So I just resigned from my job, small company, cause my manager would not pay me on time, he would avoid me on payday and I would have to seek him out and ask why he hasn't paid me yet. I work remotely so we don't see each other often. Granted he wasn't always this bad, but he always paid me later than he was supposed to. This year however it got worse as the company started doing badly. I'm an understanding person but what irritated me more than anything was how I'd have to ask him why I'm not paid instead of him informing me that things are bad and salary will be delayed. So I started planning my exit plan. We also had a big project that we were working on and was supposed to be presented for the clients. Comes presentation day I don't show up, he texts and calls and I ignore him. Then later that day I emailed him my resignation. I thought I should make him feel what he's made me feel for months. Creative ways I kept my arsehole neighbor awake during the day, by user itsnick_03. So a bit of backstory, a few years ago we had a couple buy the house 2 up from us in our street. They did renovations for the first couple of months, 7 days a week from 6 a.m. As annoying as it is being woken up on Sunday mornings by a power saw, my fiancé and I know that if you live near people you're gonna hear noise so we just rolled with it. Everything changed after the renos were finished. The guy went back to work on night shift. All of a sudden our street had to be silent during the day so he could sleep. This self-entitled cunt went to great lengths to get his beauty sleep. He called the police for noise complaints any chance he got. My hippie neighbors who had their weekly afternoon jam session with acoustic guitars, my Vietnamese neighbors and their god-awful Thursday afternoon karaoke and then it was my turn. Complaint after complaint went into the council about noise from my dogs and chickens. He would walk to my front fence wait for my dog to bark at him then record it and send it to council. Then he discovered my dog was controlled, i.e. not allowed out of my yard without a leash. One day I left the gate open to bring shopping in, cunty McFuckface filmed my dog walk 3 meters out of my yard to the car, sent it to council and I received an $800 fine in the mail. That was the last straw. Since I'm a builder I have access to lots of noisy shit, grinders, chainsaws, metal cut-off saws etc. Since I own my own company it's not always necessary for me to be on site. I waited for him to get home, gave him an hour to get comfortable then began cutting rebar with a 2-stroke cut-off saw in my front yard in 50mm sections. It took all of 15 minutes before he burst out of his house with his cranky pants on. I couldn't keep a straight face as I told him I was quite within my rights to do work around the house during the day, just as he had. Then I told him I'd had weeks of work to do so I'd better get back to it. The look on his face brought me the purest joy I've ever felt. I'd give him 30 minutes to settle and then start cutting again for 10 to 15 minutes. Chainsaws, power saws, didn't matter what I cut because it was all going in the bin anyway. It was only a couple of weeks before I got bored and ran out of shit to cut but in that time I took every single opportunity I could to drive that arsehole to insanity.